The Hunchback of Notre Dame, Chapter 15. While the beggar army was being attacked, I secretly entered Notre Dame. I climbed the ladder that the workmen had showed me, and then I followed a narrow walkway. Soon I found myself on the roof of the cathedral. I heard the warbling sound of the pigeons that lived on the stone arches. It was dark. I was alone, but I was determined to rescue Esmeralda. Far ahead of me, I could hear the sounds of the battle. I heard the cries of fear as the molten lead fell upon my friends. Then the night grew eerily quiet. I wondered what had happened. Had the beggar army finally broken into the church, or had they somehow been defeated? I did not know, but I pushed on. I found a darkened doorway and went down a long flight of stone stairs. Now I was inside the cathedral. The halls were dimly lit and like a maze. Within minutes, I was lost. When Quasimodo returned to Esmeralda's chamber, he screamed in rage and fear. The door was open and Esmeralda was gone. He looked down and saw that only the whistle he'd given her remained. It was lying on the floor, and the leather strap that had held it around her neck was torn. The wooden whistle was broken. Quasimodo knew that no beggar had taken the gypsy girl. He had seen to that. The hunchback knew who'd been here. While he'd been fighting, Claude Frollo had come and claimed Esmeralda. With an enraged snarl like a trapped animal, Quasimodo ran down the hallway. He had to find Esmeralda. Ahead of me in the darkness was a wavering torch. I peered down the very long, dimly lit hallway. At the other end, I saw a red-robed figure carrying a limp form. Though it was dark and she was far away, I was certain the limp figure was Esmeralda. With a cry, I ran forward. I stumbled down the long hallway. Suddenly, the figures I had seen turned off the hallway, and the darkness swallowed them up. I whimpered in rage and helplessness. Claude Frollo knew that Quasimodo would never look for him here on the roof. As the archdeacon tied the long rope into a hangman's noose, he gazed at the still form lying at his feet. Yes, the archdeacon muttered to himself, "You are beautiful, witch, but your beauty shall not stop me from doing my duty." Quickly, Claude Frollo finished the knot. Then he swung the rope over the neck of a stone gargoyle and tied it tight. Claude Frollo leaned over Esmeralda's still form and placed the noose around her slender neck. Meanwhile, Quasimodo was frantically looking for Esmeralda. He had run to Claude Frollo's chambers, but the rooms had been empty. He had checked the cathedral, but Frollo had not been there. Quasimodo was beside himself with fear. He wondered if the archdeacon was taking the gypsy girl to the king's men. Suddenly, Quasimodo's eye fell on an empty hook. The hunchback knew what belonged on that hook: a rope. The archdeacon always kept it there. Quasimodo knew this because Frollo often used the rope to beat him. Now that rope was gone. Quasimodo rushed from the chamber and ran up the stairs. He had to get back to the roof before it was too late. In desperation, I continued my search. I quickly climbed up another dark flight of stairs, and ran through a maze of hallways. I feared I would be lost in this cathedral forever. Finally, ahead of me, I saw a doorway. I felt a cold breeze and knew that the door led to the outside. I pushed the heavy wooden door open and walked out onto a long balcony. At the far end of the walkway, I saw the red-robed figure of the archdeacon. He was standing stock still. He was looking down over the edge of the roof. His gaze never shifted as I approached him. Claude Frollo, I shouted, I have come for Esmeralda. The archdeacon turned to face me. His eyes were wild. His face was flushed. He shook his head slowly. Too late, the archdeacon muttered. Too late. My eyes followed his gaze. At that moment, my soul died. There, dangling on the end of a hangman's rope over the streets of Paris, Esmeralda's corpse swung back and forth. The archdeacon had hung her himself. No, I screamed and sprang forward. I rushed to the rope and pulled. In a moment I held my beloved Esmeralda in my arms. She was already lifeless and cold as my heart. Then I sensed movement. I looked up. A loud snarl burst from the darkness. Quasimodo leapt between me and the archdeacon. You killed her, Quasimodo cried in anguish. You murdered this gentle woman. Claude Frollo stepped back in fear of the hunchback, but Quasimodo kept coming. No mercy showed in the hunchback's single good eye, and no love for his foster father. With a mad dash, the hunchback leapt into the air and came down hard on the archdeacon. There was one loud and final scream as both the archdeacon and Quasimodo, the hunchback of Notre Dame, pitched over the edge of the balcony and into the street, far, far below.